Good evening, my soul beings. Welcome to Death Talk Unscripted, Blood and Bone. Your host, Paula Adams, and I'm a death walker. So I thought I would just start off by everybody taking a big, deep breath. Let it out. There you go. And I know everything's been stressful. It's that time of year, and, we've had to shop for Thanksgiving, and we've had the family over, and grocery prices are out of control. I mean, the whole darn thing's just out of control. So I just wanted to bring this little podcast to life tonight and maybe just put a little bit of sanity and some stability into your life tonight. The subject that we're going to be discussing is gaslighting at the veil, when medicine denies the dying their voice. Gaslighting at the end of the life, this is a crisis of care and control. And basically, it's happening more and more. It predominantly happens to women, and it also happens quite regularly it comes to the elderly, of course, the most vulnerable people. I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. There's a quiet violence in the medical system. It doesn't scream. It dismisses. It tells the suffering that they're not suffering. It tells the dying they're not ready. It's called medical gaslighting. And it is more common than we think. Like I was talking to earlier, it happens a great deal to women. It happens to a vast majority of the elderly population. It also occurs with some men as well. And it happens across the board in pretty much all of the medical field. And patients, especially women, elders, and those with chronic illnesses or invisible illnesses, are often told their pain is just stress. Their symptoms are not that serious. Their instincts are overreactive. Yeah, I don't like it when people tell me my instincts are overreactive. That's not something that you really want to say to me. But they do say that. And then what happens, believe it or not, is these patients, they begin to doubt their own knowing. They stop asking. They stop trusting. They stop seeking care. Do you see the pattern that is laid out before your very eyes? Can you hear the pattern when I talk to it? Let me try it again. Patients, especially women, elders, and those with chronic or invisible illnesses, are often told their pain is just stress. Don't worry about it. Just go home, relax, take a bubble bath. It'll be okay. Their symptoms, when you list their symptoms and you hear them, and then you tell them, oh, they're not that serious. Don't worry about it. And then the very last thing that human beings absolutely have to fall back on is their gut instincts. So these patients' gut instincts are being forced to the surface to get this fixed. And it comes back as, oh, you're overreactive. And they do that to more women. Oh, she's overreacting. Oh, it must be that time of month. And I want people to know that when you do that in the medical field, as a medical field person, you then start making the patient begin to doubt their own knowing. And then the second step that happens is they stop asking. And then the third step comes, they stop trusting. And you know what the most detrimental part of this is? They just stop seeking care. Now, if you can tell me how that works into your Hippocratic oath of do no harm, I'm all ears. Because when I'm with a client, or I catch something when I'm in with some clients and we're at the hospital or something, and I catch that glimpse, those certain words that say gaslighting, gaslighting, boy, I turn around and I pay attention. This is the part that is, for me, when we're talking about this gaslighting, especially when you're gaslighting people, the elderly, who are either dying or getting ready to enter the dying phase. And you tell them, oh, they have stage 4. Oh, you'll come through it. You'll be okay. That's gaslighting. And it's harmful on every level. It's harmful physically. It's harmful mentally. It's harmful emotionally. And it's harmful spiritually. And we don't ever want people to stop seeking care because they can't trust you people, the medical industry. If they can't trust you, if the patients cannot trust you, then I ask, what value do you have? What is the purpose of you being an entity that is allowed to take care of people if you don't have the empathy, if you don't have the compassion to not gaslight any human being? And the funny thing is, this is not just failure of a communication. It is a systematic silencing. You are silencing these patients. When you gaslight them, you back them into a corner, and they have you have systematically silenced them. You have shamed and guilted them, and literally, when you gaslight us, the patients, you then put us in such a mental precarious place that we don't even trust ourselves. And I just think that it's quite uncalled for. Medical aid in dying, which is, for everyone who has been following me and listening to me, it's called MAID. And I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Gaslit from all sides. When I say that, I'm talking about MAID. MAID, it will get you and coming with gaslighting. So here's the scenario. Imagine a dying person who requests medical aid in dying, which is MAID. They've met every legal and medical requirement. They've made peace with their choice, and still they are questioned. You're not suffering enough. You must be depressed. You don't really want to die. You just need more support. God decides when you go, not you. All of that is gaslighting. Every one of those. And with every one of those statements comes shame, guilt, mistrust, second guessing, mental anguish, on top of dying, by the way. We're just going to throw this extra in, we're just going to throw it at you because the medical field apparently doesn't think that dying is enough. I mean, there has to be there has to be more drama to it. So this is where they throw this in. And even when they qualify to get made, they're made to feel unqualified. Even when they're clear, they're treated as confused. When these people are so clear, I love it because this is the next statement out of when you get older and stuff, you get confused and you get a little feeble-minded. I'm not quite sure you really understand the concept. That's my favorite. And Oh, are you sure you can do it? I mean, you know how you are, you get really funny when people are watching you. This is all gaslighting, whether it's coming from your tribe, whether it's coming from your partner, whether it's coming from the medical facilities, the outside groups that you attend. This is what gaslighting is. This is gaslighting on a societal scale. And it's happening at the threshold of dying. Even when they're ready, they're told to wait. Oh, just wait. When they say, I'm ready, and you say, and they get told, just wait, just go through hospice and wait. Why? Why do that? When medical aid in dying is right there, and you're the dying person, and you've requested it. You followed every rule. You took each step one by one, and you did every legal, and you met every medical requirement. And now there's more hurdles to jump over. Shouldn't be that way. There aren't those hurdles when it comes to hospice, I guarantee you. As a death walker, I reflect a lot on this because it's not that I'm against hospice. I just think that I think hospice is an ultimatum. I think it's an ultimatum for about 30 to 35% of the population. And it could be more, I don't know. Some people say 75% of Americans are, they would like to have medical aid in dying as a law. If that's the case, then that's even better. But right now, with the circles that I'm dealing with, I would say in the state that I live in, I deal with about 30% of the population right now that reaches out to me because I navigate the medical aid in dying for these people because they can't get it here in this state. It's not available. Hospice is. And I will do hospice. Um, it's it's not about hospice so much as it's about walking the person. And if I've been chosen to do this, then of course, hospice will be the way to go. That is their choice. That is their end plan. That is how they would like to finish living here in this time and place. And of course, I don't actively pursue it. Most of the people who find me and want hospice, they find me because there's something that I can add to the hospice, either a ceremony or some sort of ritualistic, or I bring something from earth medicine into the deal. And so that's when I get called into hospice. As far as I'm concerned, hospice has beautiful people working hospice. The people who come into the hospice, whether it's home or hospital, they have a support system. They have their caregivers, their loved ones, they're set. And they're perfectly okay with hospice being the end of life ritual. They're perfectly okay with that. I have the clients who would rather self-deliver than go through hospice. So that's why MAID is so important to me, because there are a bunch of us out there who absolutely do not want to go through hospice. We think it is barbaric. We think, a lot of us who want to go through medical aid and dying, we also feel that hospice is an ultimatum. There is no choice. It's the only thing that's there. We believe that it is not about quality at all. It's about quantity. Hospice is a long process to die. And last but not least, I think it is a spiritual trauma to the dying and an absolute spiritual trauma to the living. So I advocate for MAID, medical aid in dying. It is a kinder, softer, gentler, swifter way to go. And the beautiful thing about medical aid in dying is the caregiver doesn't have to be the caregiver anymore. They can be their partner, their lover, their husband, their wife. The children no longer have to help or be substitute caregivers. They get to be daughters and sons. They get to be with their dying person as they go to sleep and they don't wake up. This is the beautiful thing about medical aid in dying. It is almost a calming. Anyways, with my reflections that I was talking about earlier, I've watched this from the outside, not as a clinician, not as a policymaker, but as a death walker. One who listens at the edge, who walks beside the dying, who hears what the system cannot hear. And what that basically means is what I sit here and tell you and talk to you about. When I say one who listens on the edge, that's exactly it. I am always an observer on the edge, looking in. I am observing from the outside the dying person, the tribe, the medical institutions. That is what I do. And it is from a reverence place. It is from an observer, someone who has no dog in that race. And when I walk beside the dying and I hear what the system cannot, I hear what all these people tell me. You know, I have the family that tells me, I have the dying that tell me, I have the ancestors that speak to me. And all of this is what the system can't hear because they're choosing not to, because we haven't found a way to integrate that. And I think we need to. I really do. I think that that's what death walkers are for. I think that's what spiritual healers are for. I believe that is what in near-death experience people are for. I felt the cry of the dying person. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's a silence that is so deep. Man, it'll shake my bones. And when it does that, it's shaking everything from the dying person's life. And it's almost like I can see it on a big screen. You know, it's shaky, but it's there. And I can see all the times that they were gaslit here, gaslit there. It's almost like I'm watching a movie and I've got the golden ticket. You know, I'm the only one that can do that. They're not asking for permission. They're asking to be seen, to be trusted, to be held in their knowing. In other words, they're asking you to trust them, to know what they're telling you, where their symptoms are, how they are, where they are, when they come, what color they are, what they do. They're not asking you for permission. They want you to see them. And the system too often simply turns away. That's just the bottom line. It's like, no, it's too hard. No, she's hysterical. Oh, she's one of those. She's one of those holistic people who, does all the guru herbs and drinks all these weird teas, and that's all gaslighting, people. That is nothing more than putting it out there in your face and telling you that what you do, you should not be trusted. Your instincts are wrong. That whole holistic vision it's gaslighting to the max. I watch caregivers beg for clarity. only to be buried in paperwork. I've watched patients ask for peace, only to be handed protocol. I've watched the sacred become clinical, and the clinical become cruel. I see it over and over and over. There's a great cost of denial. Gaslighting, whether in a hospital room or at the threshold, it erodes autonomy. It delays care. It causes spiritual harm. In the case of MAID, it can mean a person dies in pain, in fear, or in silence because their request was denied, delayed, or dismissed. The gall of these people to somehow think that they know better than the dying person? Wow. Those egos must be woof. And for those who receive the prescription but choose not to take it, the gaslighting continues. The critics will say, see, they didn't really want to die. But what they miss, what these critics miss, and it's the most important thing, I can't begin to say this enough. What they miss is the sacred sovereignty of having the choice, of holding the Kool-Aid in their hand, the straw on their mouth. Now we're talking, baby. Now we have a choice. Ain't it groovy? I mean, really, think about it. And then you say, no, thank you. I'm going to go back and do hospice. Maybe I want to hang out a little longer. That choice is the ritual that I talk about. That choice is the ritual for human beings. Choice is the ritual. That knowing then turns into relief. Can you, if just think about it, that knowing is then relief. Can you imagine after all that time, after all that gaslighting, all those, you couldn't trust yourself, you stopped paying attention, and now there's a knowing and it's going to be relieved. Let's talk about what the system cannot hold. The medical system is built to treat. It's not to listen, to fix, and it's not to witness. It's to prolong and not to release. Excuse me. Coming off a bad bronchial cough. MAID challenges that. It takes the system to honor suffering it cannot measure, to validate choices it cannot control, to trust the dying person's knowing over its own protocols. So, the medical system is built to treat. MAID challenges that. It doesn't listen, it doesn't fix, and it's not to witness. MAID is to listen. MAID does have a fix, and MAID there is a witness. It's the system to honor suffering it cannot measure. It's to validate choices that it cannot control. To trust the dying person's knowing over its own protocols. And that is terrifying to a system that equates control with care. I get it. They're terrified. Absolutely. And in their terrifying, they do create harm. There's no other choice. They do create harm. We can reclaim the sacred. As death walkers and death doulas and death advocates, we must name this gaslighting for what it is. It's a refusal to honor the dying as sovereign beings. Just that simple. We must build a new model, one rooted in reverence, not regulation, one that listens before it prescribes, one that trusts the dying to know when it is time to die. That is the number one thing I want to reiterate in this podcast. One that trusts the dying to know when it is time. That is very much what my Destiny's Door Death Retreat is going to be. It is going to be where where my place is where you can absolutely trust that when you tell me it's time, I believe you. That's all I need to know. Yes. All the paperwork, all that stuff that was done, that is done through H&R. When I look at you and you look at me, all you need to do is let me know when it's time. And I'm there. And it will be just as it's meant to be. Because the question now is not whether MAID is right for everyone. The question is whether we will continue to deny the dying their voice because we're too afraid to hear it. Really? That's our whole platform right there? That's the medical platform? That's the outside consensus? Again, I go back to the most important person is the dying person. The question is whether we will continue to deny the dying their voice because we're too afraid to hear it. Think about that. Let it resonate with you. Let us not be afraid. Let us be the ones who listen. Let us be the ones who talk and walk these people home. Let us be the ones that negate the trauma. Let us be the ones that cleanse it. But better yet, let us balance it. Let us balance it with sovereignty, autonomy. Let us make this a more even platform when we trust the dying to know when it's time to go. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Please pay attention when you go to your doctors. Some of them are very good and they do it very subtly. And you won't even know it's happening to you until it's too late. And you will start wondering whether you're crazy, whether all these things happen. And I'll be the first one to say I'm going to jump in. I'm not embarrassed to say that a couple times I'm not really into the American Medical Association. I do everything holistically first, and when I can't get the results that I want, then I turn to the AMA. But I also walk in with the concept that they will probably find me to be abstract. They will probably find me to be out of the ordinary, and even possibly find me to be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Not obnoxious, but I'm going to probably be a harder patient than they know. Maybe a pain in the ass. How about that? But that's how I do stuff. And so when I go into when I went in, I have been gaslighted before. I have been made to think that I was crazy, that what was happening, what I was feeling in my body wasn't real. And the stress. Well, I knew it wouldn't be stress because I meditate. I was taught to meditate at 3 years of age, and I meditate at least 3 times a day solidly. And then I do short meditations whenever, I get these little moments where I feel something is out of whack. But for me, it's recognizing when I'm being gaslighted and when I need to back off and when I need to tell them about my boundaries. I also know too that I am going back to start looking for holistic doctors and seeing if I can merge the two together. But anyways, this has lasted a little bit longer than I wanted to, and I do apologize. This gaslighting thing has been sitting in my mind for a couple weeks now. I've had 2 clients that were really, really gaslighted, and it's set them back in their recovery so far. And, one of them, she just doesn't have the time for all these setbacks. But anyways, that's the story for another time. Hey, I wanted to close real quick. This is the last episode for season 3. Yeah, baby, I did 3 seasons. Can you believe it? I'm so happy. And I'm going to start my 4th in December. My first season 4, episode 1 is going to be on December 11th at 11 a.m. And I'm going to have Dr. Casserat. He is Dr. David Casserat, who's going to come and be my guest. He is a renowned author. He is the director for the at Duke. What else? Oh, I'll give you a whole rundown of some goodies. Maybe I'll just throw it up in there somewhere. Give me a sec. Hang on. I can probably fix that right. All right. Let's see. Uh-huh. Well, let's see. I might not, folks. Oh, okay. Here's a couple things I can tell you about him. His book, Undiscovered Country, a science-backed travel guide for our final moments. It is a really good book. I did read it. It's phenomenal. He's a palliative care physician, and he offers scientific and deeply human exploration of death and dying. His insights will bring a rich and compassionate lens to your podcast. I know it will. He specializes in end-of-life care. He helps patients navigate their final stages. I told you he was an author and an educator. He's done a TEDx Med, and he's an entrepreneur and an innovator. I have a lot of other stuff, but we'll save that for when he comes on the show. So again, it'll be December 11th, 11 a.m. Can't wait to have y'all hear it. I am so excited. And if any of you would like to be a guest on my show and you're listening to this, then either hit me up in the comments or you can hit me up through an email at adamspaula90@gmail.com. Peace and out. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. Mwah. So much love.